But anyway, moving on to licensing, we have mandatory licensing, selective licensing, and additional licensing. This is about tenancy, property-wise, what we're talking about is licensing. What do you see is happening here, guys? The council are trying to get a hold of every property in the country to make sure they meet minimum compliance standards. And what they've thought is the only way they can do this is by licensing the property. So I like the logic, but I don't like the way they enforce it because they're not doing a very good job of it. But mandatory again means that there's no two ways about it. You have to have a license if you fall into a mandatory licensing criteria. Selective means what I talked about earlier with the Liverpool area. They select an area that's run down, that needs regeneration, that the properties are poor. They select a particular area and they make that licensable for 5 years. And when that's finished, they'll move on to another area. Now, they did it here in All Saints. And I have to give Wolverhampton Council its dues. They did a very, very good job because All Saints was in a very poor condition. It was very run down. It was not a very nice place to go, walk around, and the properties were of poor condition. They selectively licensed it. They made landlords improve their properties. They improved the area. They're now building new properties there, and the area is much better. They achieved what this was set out to do. Liverpool haven't done that because they're still struggling through the 55,000 applications that are sat on their desk because they didn't think it through. So, of course, there's not been any, well, they don't know if there's been any improvements in the market or in the sector or in the properties because they haven't even visited them yet. And they're 3 years into the 5-year scheme. So in 2 years, that scheme will finish and it is most likely that they haven't looked at all of those properties. So it hasn't worked. But this is becoming more and more frequent. Liverpool, Wolverhampton, Essex, several different areas are now becoming selectively licensed. So please do not fall foul of this. Because what did I say to you earlier? What can you not do? With a Section 21 notice, you can't serve that notice if you haven't got a licence where one is required. So you can never get your property back. So don't fall foul. Additional licensing is again where they decide in a certain area what they're going to do is they're going to reduce the story level. This is what was talked about. They're going to reduce it from 3 to 2, but just in one area. That's gone. But what additional licensing might take place is they might say in your area, actually, we want any properties that are 3 or more non-related or 4 or more non-related to be licensable, and they have the powers to do that as well.
So selective licensing,
yes.
Is that for 5 years?
Selective licensing is normally for 5 years, and I think what they've done now is put a restriction that they cannot choose more than 40% of an area. Is that correct, Sally? 40. So basically, when they did Liverpool, like I said, they did the whole of the borough, 100% of it. They are only now allowed to choose a 40% of that 100% area and make that selective.
So just for my own
yeah.
benefit. So for selective licensing, what you're saying is that they take one area, they're going to selectively license that area and move on to another area 5 years later.
Yes.
And then you don't have to do any more selective licensing in that other area, or is that other?
No, because obviously if they've already selectively licensed it and it's worked, see, what does a license mean? What does it mean? Basically what it means is you have to have a gas cert and you have to provide that to the council. You have to have an electric cert, which don't forget is not a legal requirement, but yes, it really is. You have to be able to prove that you've got smoke alarms within the property, and you have to have a visit to the property to ensure that it complies with HHSRS. So all they're trying to do is make sure that the property that you're giving to your tenant is up to standard, but they're documenting it. So those that don't comply, those where you go out and there are no smoke alarms and there's 15 people living in there and the place is riddled with damp, they won't be granted a licence and they're therefore breaking the law. So if used correctly, it will get rid of the rogue landlords and the slum properties, and it will increase property standards. Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
On a positive, a lot of people might know about the Wolverhampton scheme, the rent with confidence.
Brilliant, yes.
You are 5-star landlord. You do get your fee for HMO waived.
Waived or reduced?
Waived.
Waived. That's really great to know. I might sign up tomorrow. Now, I am actually, because I sit on a home stamp meeting with a lot of the councils, we are part of the Rent with Confidence, but we haven't...
It only comes out every 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, but no, that's great. That's great if you haven't got to pay, because at the end of the day, they're like £500-600 now, aren't they? And guys, remember licenses. One of the key things to remember here, if you are buying a property that's licensable or you have a property that's licensable, they are not transferable. So if you have a licence and you sell to Basil, he can't use your licence, he's got to get a new one.
Sorry, mate.
So bear that in mind, guys, as well.